Greetings DCS community, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're in the F-14B Tomcat, and this isn't the only aircraft we're going to be in. We're going to be jumping around multiple aircraft. The topic for today will be IFF, how to use it, how to better ensure that you won't fall victim to friendly fire because you forgot to turn on your IFF. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get into IFF, and before we really get started in what's going on inside the various aircraft, let's first look at how IFF works. Now, in real life, I have worked on this equipment during my time in military service. Some things, especially with IFF, still remain classified, others are not. I won't get into, I certainly won't discuss what I can't talk about. However, I'll talk about what is more important to the DCS pilot and some of the information that is out in the public domain. So I just want to preface that ahead of time. So let's look into how IFF works. All right, so for IFF, there are two halves of how this works. You have an interrogator and a transponder. Now, an interrogator will send out a challenge, and the transponder will respond and send a reply, and it only transmits in response to a challenge. It does not transmit all the time. If it did, it would be considered a beacon and not a transponder. In the example I have here on screen, the Viper pilot on the left is out flying around and he sees two radar contacts on his screen. He doesn't know who they are specifically. Let's just pretend that there's not an AWACS up today. He has two radar contacts on a screen though. So how does he sort them out? In the Viper, while the radar is scanning, the pilot can initiate a Mode 4 challenge. And that is done with target management switch right short. So it'll send out a Mode 4 challenge, and both aircraft, the Cessna and the A-10, will receive that. Now, the Cessna is not equipped with a Mode 4 transponder, so it's going to see that challenge and is not going to do a thing to it. However, the A-10 will see that and be like, oh, I've got a Mode 4 challenge, I have the right key, and send a reply. Now on the Viper screen, he's going to see a Mode 4 response on that radar contact, and he can immediately know that, oh, that's a friendly. He know for certain that he has a friendly as a radar contact. Now, I do want to emphasize the absence of a Mode 4 reply does not automatically make a radar contact hostile. All it tells you is that it could be a hostile, but it could also be a friendly that forgot to turn on his transponder. So it's just one more piece to be aware of, that yes, this does work most of the time, and you need other pieces of data in order to identify a radar contact as a hostile. This gets a lot easier if there's an AWACS up helping you out. Now, the Viper can do this, but there's other things that can interrogate targets and radar contacts. Shipboard operators can do this as well. This picture taken from the USS Midway Museum out in San Diego, California. Was able to take a tour of this back in May, and that was an awesome tour, but I digress. This little piece of equipment that I have highlighted here in the upper left, this is used by the radar operator, and as he's scanning his airspace, there's several functions available to him that he can interrogate radar contacts, and their readouts will be on this display that's on the top of this box. Not just solely Mode 4, but the other modes as well. Pretty valuable data to the radar operator there, but this is an example of aircraft aren't the only ones that can interrogate their ships, and ground controllers can do this as well. So let's get into the transponders of the various aircraft, and there are plenty of aircraft within DCS that are equipped with this particular transponder controller. This is the remote controller for the transponder, and this is mounted in the cockpit, accessible to the pilot, or in the F-14 Tomcat's case, it's the rear radio that has access to this. The actual transponder is elsewhere inside the aircraft, and that varies based depending on which aircraft you're dealing with. But if it has this control head, this is your IFF controller, and this is only for the transponder. This has nothing to do with interrogations like in the Viper or the Hornets case in DCS. I'll just run over through all the controls, and I will call out what is actually useful in DCS, what's useful in a program that runs outside of DCS on some servers. It's called LOT ATC, or otherwise called LOTAC. What LOTAC does is allows people to act as either an AWACS operator or even a ground controller. And they can actually have an overlay over the map that shows the aircraft flying around, and they can actually get the IFF readouts on aircraft, provided that you have this set up appropriately. I'll call out what's useful within DCS in general and what's useful if a particular server is running LOTAC. All right, so let's get into this. Right here in the upper right, you have the master mode knob, and it's got 5 positions. Right now it's switched into the off position, which obviously shuts off the transponder entirely. Standby will energize the transponder, but it will not do a thing. It will not transmit to any challenge that it receives. Low and normal allow it to actually respond to interrogations. However, normal is normal power, low is low power. So that's low is more meant for covert operations to reduce the likelihood that an aircraft will give away its position. Within DCS, I don't think that is functional. I'm drawing on memory here, but I believe that the emergency position here at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken, this puts the transponder in a continuous broadcast mode. In case you get into trouble, people can help find you. I'm not exactly sure what it exactly did. Like I said, it's been quite a few years since I've operated this piece of equipment. I don't believe this functions within DCS. For most purposes, though, you when you're flying around, especially when you do cold starts, you want to turn this on and get it to the normal position so this thing can actually work. Off to its left, you have a couple of indicator lights. You got a replay light, which pertains to the mode 4, and I'll get to that here in a moment. And then this test light goes with this test switch over here underneath the master mode knob. Once this is up and running, you would hold this to the radar test, and if the transponder was functioning normally, the test light would light up green, and that would indicate to the pilot or the operator that, hey, my transponder is likely good and operating normally. Within DCS, I don't believe this functions at all. You can left click both of these lights, and you can actually see right here on the perimeter of the reply light, it says press to test. In real life, you could press down on these lights, and it would, assuming the light bulb was not burnt out, it would actually light the light. And you can actually do that within DCS if you left click these. Underneath these, now you get into the mode knobs, and I'll touch on these as we go. Now, before I detail out all the different modes, I do want to point out that you're going to have 2 settings here in general. You either have it on, which all these switches are set to the on middle position. Up doesn't do anything on these, and I don't even think you can switch them to the up position. Down here at the bottom, you have out. Not sure why it's labeled that way. You can think of that position as simply off. It is turning off mode 1, or you're taking mode 1, for example, out of the responses. So mode 1 is a mission identifier, and that in particular is dialed in either by the pilot or the operator for whatever mission that you're on. Generally in DCS, this does nothing for you. However, a operator using LOTAC can see what this is set to. So if you're in a server running LOTAC and you have human controllers operating, depending on what they want, you could use this more as like a flight identifier. So like say if you're in a flight of Hornets, everybody can set this to say 01, and a ground controller using LOTAC could see that on those 4 and be like, okay, they're part of that. But it's up to them and how they want to run it. That's available to you, but generally in DCS, this does nothing for you. All right, mode 2 is a unit identifier and was not able to be changed by the pilot at all, and it can be read in LOTAC, but like I said, it can't be set by the pilot, so this is really of no use. Mode 3. This is a very common thing, both in real-world aviation and civil aviation. This is your squawk code. So if you're familiar either as a real pilot or you fly any of the other simulators like Microsoft Flight Simulator, X-Plane, or Prepare 3D, you're probably already familiar with Mode 3, otherwise known as Mode Alpha. This would be your squawk code assigned by air traffic control or a military controller. For example, I could get the radio call Warthog 62, squawk 4433. I would then dial that in using these thumb wheels down here at the bottom, and that would be my assigned squawk code. In civil aircraft, you would have something that looks like this. This is a fairly common transponder that's used in, say, Cessnas and Pipers and other light aircraft. Your squawk code would be set using these thumb wheels, one for each digit. That would be your assigned squawk code for your particular flight. Now, Mode 3 within DCS has no purpose unless you're, again, on a server running low-tech. Then they can read that. If they're assigning squawk codes, this is where you would dial it in. Mode Charlie. So what Mode Charlie is the altimeter of the aircraft is tied in directly to the transponder so that its altitude can get broadcast out, and that would be part of a response to an interrogation. The pilot doesn't really control this too much. It's tied directly to the altimeter. The only thing the pilot can do is just turn this particular mode off. In general, Mode Charlie doesn't do much for you within DCS unless, again, you're with a human controller running low tech. That'd be the only time that this would come into play. Now, here's the ident switch, and in DCS in general, this has no purpose. This might work in the low tech setting. Again, if you have a controller running low tech with alongside DCS, I'm not sure if this works. Please comment below if you are a human controller and that runs on low tech. I'd love to know if this actually does anything within DCS. Out in the real world, what a controller could call up Warthog 62 ident. And what I would do is I would toggle that switch up to the ident position. And what that would do is it would enhance my radar contact on the screen in a way that distinguishes me from other aircraft. Very useful in a busy airspace. That's how controllers can help sort out various contacts. But like I said, within DCS, this does nothing. Of importance, though, for us is Mode 4, and that is this entire section of this control panel. You got the code knob at the top. Within DCS, this doesn't do anything. I don't even think if you put it in the 0 position that it would do anything. 0 would permanently delete whatever codes were loaded into this. Underneath that, you have the switch that is labeled audio and light. What this does is this ties in with this replay light right here that I pointed out earlier. So if this switch is switched down to light and the transponder got a mode 4 interrogation, this light would illuminate whenever the transponder replied to it. That would signify to the pilot or the operator that, hey, I just sent a mode 4 reply. There's a military aircraft up there doing mode 4 scans. You could also set this to audio, and you just get an audio alert in your headset, like a beep or something along those lines. And then down here, this switch, this is a very important switch within DCS. This will actually turn on your mode 4 responses. Part of your startup, if you're doing a cold and dark startup, is you want to make sure that the master mode knob gets turned on to normal, but you also want to make sure that your mode 4 is turned on. Because if you don't, even if you get a mode 4 challenge, your transponder will not generate a mode 4 reply. And if you want to think about this, like I said earlier, mode 4 is the secret handshake. All right, so that's enough explaining out of me. Let's jump into various aircraft, and I will show you how to actually turn these on. And in the case of some of the other aircraft that I can actually interrogate targets, let's see how that looks and works. All right, so in the F5, we'll look down and towards where the pilot's right knee would be. And here is your IFF controller. So in the F5, again, we'd want to go to standby. Now, and this is an old habit of mine. You don't have to do it this way, and I'm pretty sure it does not matter in DCS. But for me, running this gear, I would put it in standby, and you would do this once that your engines are up and running and stable. Throw it in standby, and either on the taxi to the runway or right prior to taking the runway, send this to normal, and then make sure that your mode 4 is turned on. And this is how this works on the F5. And here we are in the F86, and to be fair, this thing does not have your typical IFF controller, not like the other aircraft that I'm featuring today. However, just for posterity, your IFF controller is this panel all the way to the back on the right-hand console. You could send it into normal. You have what's called mode 2 and mode 3. Not exactly sure how this particular IFF works. This is a much older set, and I don't even see mode 4 listed on here. So, but like I said, just for posterity, here's the IFF in the F86, and that's how you would turn it on and make sure that your mode switches are turned up. That's pretty much all you can do in the F86. All right, now here in the A10, I'm sitting in the Tank Killer version. This is also the same exact in the original Warthog flavor. Your IFF control head is right here, located on the left-hand console, kind of hidden behind the throttle. Let me get the left-hand throttle out of the way for you and zoom in a little bit. Your master mode knob there in the upper right corner. You just send that to normal, and then turn your mode 4 switch to on, and your IFF is as set up as it'll get here in the Warthog. Now here in the Apache, we'd have to come down to COM, and then menu under Transponder, and here's where you would change all of your settings. Now, to my knowledge, IFF has not been implemented yet in the Apache, but we have the screen here that we can look at, and that's pretty much all we can do here. All right, so here in the Huey, what we would look for is the IFF control head right here on the center console up front. It's more on the co-pilot side, but here it is in all its glory. So master mode knob, again, 3 clicks to normal and mode 4 to on. Always remember to turn your mode 4 on, and that is all you have to do here in the Huey. Now here in the Harrier, I haven't seen anything either in the manual or in, say, Chuck's guide that tells me how I can turn this on. So here's the button right here, and as you can see, it's not doing anything, unlike, say, the TACAN button, which I can bring up my TACAN page and tell it what channel to be on, etc., etc. However, IFF does not seem to be implemented yet in the Harrier, and as far as I'm aware, you're on your own with this one. Alright, so here we are in the F-16, and in order to turn the transponder on, we got something a little different than the other aircraft. So we come over here to the left-hand console and find the IFF panel, which is right underneath where you would normally open your air-to-air refueling door. This is your panel. So your master mode knob is right here in the top left corner, and you want to make sure it gets into normal, and that's most of your interaction with the IFF system here in the Viper. Otherwise, you can come up to the ICP, hit IFF, and here are all of your symbology. So your IFF is turned on. Here's your mode 1 code, mode 2, mode 3, and mode 4 is engaged. Alright, so that's your transponder. Now, this aircraft is also capable of interrogating targets, so let's look at that. So, alright, so now we got some radar contacts now, and in order to interrogate these, we use target management switch left, or TMS left short. So what you're going to see in the bottom left corner is mode 4 scan. And if we look carefully, and I'll pause my head here, mode 4 scan, and we get some green symbology around the left-hand contact. that tells me that is a friendly target. Now, mode 4 scan again, and it always shows on the screen temporarily, so you got to pay attention. Now, if we wanted to lock up this guy, do another mode 4 scan, and now we get mode 4. Alright, now unlike the Hornet, you do not get any HUD symbology that you are engaging a friendly or a hostile. All of your IFF interaction is down here on the radar display. So mode 4 scan, there's our contact on the left. The guy on the right is likely hostile and is initiating a turn as expected. Alright, so that is the IFF and the Viper one. Alright, so here we are in a Hornet. Now to interact with your transponder in this aircraft, you would need to go to your ICP, or I'm sorry, your upfront controller, because you don't have an IFF control head on either console. Everything is done through the upfront controller. So you would hit IFF, and in my case, it is already turned on. However, if this display was blank, what you would do is IFF and push and hold the on button until you get the display right here. Now you can set your mode 1 code here, which is your mission code, as I mentioned earlier. You can set that to whatever you feel like. Mode 2 you can't change. 3 Charlie you can, right now it's zeros. Now if anyone comments below and tells me what 1200 means as a squawk, as far as the squawk code goes, bonus points to you. Look forward to seeing the response down below. And then you can toggle your mode 4, code alpha, code bravo, or just turn it off entirely. You see the colons are not there, but there we are. Alright, now over on the radar, so that covers the transponder. Now we're going to look at the radar, and I'll headlock my track IR there. Alright, so we have 2 contacts coming in. It's the 2 F-14, so sensor control right to make this my sensor of interest. Alright, so we have 2 contacts coming in. They're at 30 miles. What you generally want is you want to set this up with NCTR box, non-compliant target recognition. Your contacts, you want to do this within 25 miles, and what you would do is sensor control depress, sensor control switch depress, and then sensor control switch right once you're within 25. So depress and right. And now we get a friendly, and you notice that his unknown contact now turned into a green semicircle. He's a friendly. Over here, we'll do the same thing. Sensor control switch depress and then right. And no returns. This guy is an unknown, and we have no other information other than he is not replying, so he's not likely to be a friendly. However, like I mentioned, you always want to make sure with some alternate source. Usually your AWACS will help you out as far as this goes. Now, one other thing I do want to go over is that you do get HUD symbology in the Hornet, unlike the Viper. I really wish the Viper would get HUD symbology as far as this goes. So I'll try to IFF this guy again. And if we look, there's our radar contact, and he is listed as a friend and is also signified by this being a square one. Alright, now here in the F-14 Tomcat, the IFF control panel is located on the right-hand console and is only available in the Rio's cockpit. But here it is right here, master mode to normal, and IFF mode 4 turn on. That sets up your transponder. Now, this aircraft is one that can actually interrogate targets. So, how we do that, I'll clear some of the symbology here. You can do this in any radar mode, and as you can see, I have 2 radar contacts on my screen. Now, right here on the display, and you can actually see 2 radar contacts there. Now, only the Rio has this capability of identifying contacts, but right here on the display, you have this one button right here that's labeled IFF. You push and hold that, And if you can only see this on this radar display, the DDD. If you see this guy right there has an equal sign, or the bars above and below the radar contact symbology, that tells me that that is a positive IFF return. The other guy did not have a return, and that tells me that he's either a hostile or he does not have his IFF turned on. Now, in the Tomcat, you can also do this by hooking a target, like so, and looking up here on the DDD display, look at the center crosshair. And as it sweeps and gets a IFF mode 4 reply, you'll see the equal sign bars right there. And that's how you can quickly sort contacts. You can, again, you hook a target and then look up here at the DDD. You only see the radar return. He more than likely is a hostile target. Could be a hostile target, I should say. You don't know that for certain unless, say, you have an AWACS up or you have some other target correlation available to you, typically the AWACS. And that's how it's done in the F-14. And to go with this, definitely emphasizes how useful a competent human Rio is. And coming up in the future, I'm going to have some more content featuring the Rio role here in the F-14 Tomcat, because almost all of my time here in the Tomcat is in the back seat. I absolutely love flying here in the back. Now, also in the F-14, you do have Jester that'll help you out and call out targets. However, I very rarely fly this thing in the pilot position, and almost never with Jester. Usually there's somebody else in the back seat, because it's just that much better in my opinion. However, he will help you out and will normally call out friendlies and hostiles accordingly. All right, well, that's IFF in a nutshell. I definitely hope this helps you out in multiplayer, especially with not getting shot down, which has happened to me from time to time by friendly forces, and usually it's from people that's either new to an aircraft or learning a new module and haven't learned all the symbology yet. Most of the incidents is the other players apologized. Every now and then it tends to be egregious. However, on the Inferno servers, which I featured in the last video I did, they do have an auto admin system that players that do that sort of thing get kicked out pretty quickly. Well, there you have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this quick IFF tutorial, especially how it pertains to not getting shot down, or in a better way of more easily getting recognized as a friendly in a multiplayer setting, especially against other humans. With that, thank you very much for watching. I do have some really cool upcoming content coming up. I'll do some more in the back seat of the F-14, because that's where most of my specialty lies in this particular bird. If you remember the F-4 Phantom from a few videos ago, where I got to film a real F-4D being started up and taxied, I have some good news about that. I am actually volunteering with the Collings Foundation and helping out the crew do the maintenance and inspection on the F-4D, so I'm going to have some upcoming content featuring that. So really looking forward to showcasing some of that stuff. So with that, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.